And welcome to Wise Guys. These guys know sports on this Monday, October the 25th, in the house with your boy Trey Larkins on the Worldwide Sports Network, live here on the Wise Guys Sports Show. Everybody remember, go follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Happy Monday. I got an action jam-packed show ahead. I'm going to talk about a little bit later on the show, the Lakers beating the Memphis Grizzlies 121-118. My man Carmelo Anthony dropped 28 points on 6 of 8 shooting from three-point range. He was absolutely sensational. Also later on the show, I'm going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and their struggles. Patrick Mahomes. He ain't looking like the best quarterback in the NFL to me after 7 weeks into the NFL season. So I'm going to break down the Chiefs and their ongoing issues so far this NFL season. But I got to start off, with something that's really, really ticked me off earlier this afternoon. So I got to admit, I had a pretty good weekend. I really, really did. Saturday, the Bearcats, they gave me a heart attack because that game was a little bit more competitive than I expected. Going up against Navy, Bearcats end up pulling out the win 27-20, but it was too close, for my comfort as a Bearcat fan. And everyone knows the committee, they're trying to find ways to, take away from this great season that the Bearcats are having, and find ways to pretend like they're not a top 5 team right now in the country. So they gave me a heart attack Saturday afternoon watching the game, but they prevailed 27-20. And then Saturday night, I enjoyed some fun time with my son, went out to rock and jump and spent some quality time with my son and my 2 little cousins as well. So that was definitely fun. Had some nice family time Saturday evening. And then yesterday, Packers beat the Washington football team 24-10, 6 straight wins for my Green Bay Packers as we sit atop the NFC North. Aaron Rodgers has been playing some great football. I think he got 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He playing some great football right now. Y'all know, we sitting right now at the top of the NFC standings. And I was looking forward to a big time matchup, Thursday night football, going to Arizona to take on Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, who are 7-0 on the season. Packers 6-1, Cardinals 7-0. This is a big time matchup in the NFC. It could be a game we could look back on when it comes to who is going to have the number 1 seed in the NFC. And earlier this afternoon, I get a notification to my phone that Davante Adams has gone on the COVID list. So it's a good chance that we're not going to have our star receiver for this big time matchup Thursday night against the Arizona Cardinals. And it just made my start of the week disappointing. And I'm not too happy about it. I ain't too happy about it. I got to be honest. I'm not too happy about it because without Davante Adams, the chances of my Packers beating the Cardinals in the desert decreases immensely. Like I thought we had a shot to pull off the win, but it's going to be tough without Davante Adams. There is a still possibility that he could still play in that game, but it's going to be tough because he has to have 2 negative tests 2 days in a row, and the game is Thursday. So he got to test negative Tuesday, and he got to test negative Wednesday to have an opportunity to play in the game Thursday night. It's not looking too good for Davante Adams and his status for the game against the Cardinals. But I want to start off in the NFL and start off with the local home team. And I want to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Baltimore Ravens 41-17, and they are now at the top of the standings in the AFC North for the Bengals. Joe Burrow, he went 23 of 38, 416 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Ja'Marr Chase, he had 8 receptions, 201 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. And for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he went 15 of 31, 257 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 88 rushing yards. This is Lamar Jackson's first loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. So the last 2 years, the Ravens have dominated the matchup. They've won 5 straight against the Bengals, but that didn't happen yesterday afternoon in Baltimore. So I got Bengal fans texting me yesterday in the immediate aftermath of the game, and they asking me, they saying, hey, is this a statement win? Is this enough for you to give my Bengals credit and actually admit that they are a legit contender in the AFC? Are you ready to admit that you were wrong about the Cincinnati Bengals coming into the season? So I got to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, live here tonight on Wise Guys on the Worldwide Sports Network, I have to admit that I was wrong about the Bengals coming in last place in the AFC North. I was wrong about that. They've beaten Baltimore 41-17. They beat Pittsburgh earlier in the season. I think the score in that game was like 24-10, I believe. So they dominated that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I got to be honest. I had the Bengals finishing 4th in the AFC North. I had the Browns winning the division, and we know the injuries that they are dealing with currently. Odell Beckham's out with the shoulder injury. Even though he did play, I believe, in the Thursday night game, but he's dealing with the shoulder injury right now. You saw Baker Mayfield was out Thursday night. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt were both out against the Denver Broncos, but there are reports that Nick Chubb will return back to the lineup in week 8. But the Bengals, I got to be honest, they have proven me to be wrong, and they are the best team right now currently in the AFC North. After 7 weeks, they have proven that they are better than the bullies in the AFC North for multiple years. I mean, there were multiple years where the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers punked the Cincinnati Bengals, and that is not the case anymore, ladies and gentlemen. The Cincinnati Bengals are the class of the AFC North, and they have completely dominated this division so far through the first 7 weeks of the season. They ain't played Cleveland yet. I think they got a big-time matchup against Cleveland November 7th at Paul Brown Stadium. But through the first 7 weeks of the season, the Cincinnati Bengals are the class of the AFC North, and they are the best team in the AFC North right now. And honestly, watching the Bengals in these 7 games that I've watched them so far this season, I can't believe I'm saying this. You can make a legitimate argument that the Bengals could be 7-0. You can make that argument. They lost on a game-winning field goal by the Green Bay Packers, but they had 2 opportunities in that game to kick a game-winning field goal. McPherson missed 2 potential game-winning field goals, although Mason Crosby missed 3 potential game-winning field goals in that game for my Packers. And I thought the Packers had opportunities to pull away from the Bengals in that week 5 game, but it did not happen. And then you remember in week 2, going up against Justin Fields, Bengals lost 20-17 in a game where Joe Burrow threw 3 interceptions. That's very uncharacteristic of Joe Burrow. So that's something that we don't always see happen. And the Bengals still had an opportunity to beat the Chicago Bears in the Windy City in week 2. So you can make an argument that the Bengals could easily be 7-0 right now. Therefore, you have to say that they are one of the best teams right now in the AFC. They really, really are. Like, we're talking about the Arizona Cardinals being 7-0. The Cincinnati Bengals could easily be 7-0 alongside the Arizona Cardinals. So I was wrong about the Bengals finishing last in the AFC North. They have a legitimate chance at not only making the playoffs, but possibly winning the AFC North. Now, yesterday, after the Bengals dominated against the Baltimore Ravens, Bengal fans, because they're not used to winning, they get carried away and start talking about the Bengals being the best team in the AFC. And that's where I will say, pump the brakes, Bengal fans. Pump the brakes. Not so fast. Right now, on a neutral field, for all the marbles, with the money on the table, if the Bengals played the Buffalo Bills, I'm picking Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. If the Bengals had to face Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans, right now, I'm picking the Tennessee Titans. Now, I know the Titans, they had a rough start to the season. Y'all remember earlier in the season, the Titans, they lost to the New York Jets, a bad loss, but the Titans have reeled off 2 straight games. And I'm going to talk about them here in a bit when I talk about the Chiefs-Titans game. But the Titans are 5-2 on the season, same identical record as the Cincinnati Bengals. So those are 2 teams that I would say right now I would pick over the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC right now. And I'm not so sure the Bengals are still better than the Baltimore Ravens, although they did dominate the Baltimore Ravens yesterday. And again, the Ravens, they had beaten the Bengals 5 straight games heading into yesterday's matchup in Baltimore. So I give the Bengals credit, but I still believe that the Ravens are a good football team despite all of the injuries that they're currently dealing with. I mean, they got guys playing running back right now who are past their prime in Latavius Murray and Le'Veon Bell. But again, I give the Bengals a ton of credit, and let's break down what happened yesterday in Baltimore. Looking at the Bengals win yesterday against the Baltimore Ravens, it wasn't the fact that the Bengals won. It was how they won yesterday. They dominated the second half. They outscored the Baltimore Ravens yesterday 28-7 in the second half. They scored 28 points unanswered yesterday in the game against the Baltimore Ravens. So it wasn't the fact that they won. It was how they won. And you remember, after I think the Bengals had scored a touchdown, I think Uzama had got into the end zone. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he got into the end zone. And let me make sure. Uzama. Okay, so So he got into the end zone. And you saw Lamar Jackson lead the Baltimore Ravens back. They took a 17-13 lead. And then the Bengals scored 28 unanswered points after trailing 17-13. It was a very impressive win for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals had 520 total yards yesterday. They held the Ravens to 393 total yards on the afternoon. And so, offensively, Joe Burrow, he played outstanding. And with the exception of the red zone interception that he threw, a ball that he forced to Ja'Marr Chase, I didn't like that throw in the end zone. I felt like he was kind of forcing the action on that particular throw. Besides that bad throw in the red zone, I thought Joe Burrow played sensational yesterday afternoon. And again, where did he go? 23 of 38, 416 passing yards, which, by the way, was a career high, 3 touchdowns. And I got to admit, and I've said this before, Joe Burrow, he's the real deal. He is the real deal. And in 17 starts in his career so far, Joe Burrow has 30 touchdowns, 13 interceptions in 17 games. And how you can know if you have a franchise quarterback that you can win a Super Bowl with, it's a quarterback who can overcome deficiencies and win games for your football team. And also a quarterback who can elevate everyone up a level. So if you have a bad coach with a good young quarterback, he could be an average coach. If you have an average receiver, he can be a good receiver. If you have a good receiver, a great young quarterback can elevate that receiver to becoming a great receiver. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now with Joe Burrow and this Cincinnati Bengals team. Because honestly, Joe Burrow, he's playing for a Cincinnati Bengals franchise that has been one of the worst organizations in the NFL. They have one of the worst owners in Mike Brown in the NFL who doesn't want to spend money in free agency. It's rare. I mean, over the last 2 years, they have spent over $200 million in free agency on the defensive side of the ball. But in years previous, when the Bengals have had competent teams that were on the verge of being Super Bowl contenders, not just playoff contenders, Mike Brown didn't want to spend no money. So Joe Burrow with, I'll say, an average coach at best, because I'm not a believer in Zach Taylor just yet. I know Bengal fans, because the Bengals right now are 5-2, everybody wants to pretend like Zach Taylor all of a sudden can coach. My man Cam Chancellor. Shout out to my man Cam Chancellor, diehard Bengals fan. Go and follow Time Out with Coach Cam on all social media platforms. I saw Cam put up a post earlier today talking about how much he appreciates Zach Taylor, a Zach Taylor appreciation post. I don't really believe in Zach Taylor just yet, ladies and gentlemen. I don't. I still got my questions about Zach Taylor. But because you have a young, elite quarterback like Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, who's an average coach at best, can become a good NFL coach. Also, the offensive line that he's played with the last 2 years hasn't been very good. They're not a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. But because you have Joe Burrow, that means that the offensive line looks better than they really are. And he makes mistakes. We saw in the Packers game, in overtime, he threw an interception to DeAndre Campbell, and it cost the Bengals. It really cost the Bengals in that game. And we saw earlier in the year again against the Bears, 3 interceptions. and didn't play very well in that game. But Joe Burrow consistently has been a winner at the NFL level. And again, 30 touchdowns, 13 interceptions since he's been in the NFL. And don't forget, in college, his Heisman season, Joe Burrow had 60 touchdown passes. Now, I know he was throwing the ball to Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson, but Joe Burrow played great in the championship season that the LSU Tigers had while he was at LSU. And Joe Burrow is a winner. He has the intangibles as a winner that you need at the quarterback position. So when you want to be a Super Bowl contender, there are three things that you have to have: a great coach, a great quarterback, and a great organization. Bengals got one of the three. They got one of the three, and the jury is still out on Zach Taylor. Jury is still out. I'm not ready to say Zach Taylor is not the head coach that can lead the Bengals to a Super Bowl. I'm not ready to go that far yet, but I'm also not ready to say that he is the coach that's the right coach in place that can lead them to a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. And we know the organization hasn't been a very good organization in my lifetime at all. So they got one of the three that you need to be a legit Super Bowl contender. In order for them to really elevate and be true Super Bowl contenders, we have to see if Zach Taylor is a good or great coach and if the organization can get better throughout the course of Joe Burrow's career. Now, let's talk about Ja'Marr Chase. Ja'Marr Chase is special. He is special. And so far this season, Ja'Marr Chase, 35 receptions, 754 receiving yards. That's the most by any player through their first 7 games in NFL history. He got 6 touchdowns so far this season, and he's averaging 21.5 yards per reception. That leads the NFL right now. Ja'Marr Chase is big time. And if you don't tackle him in the open field immediately, Ja'Marr Chase can break off a huge run for 40, 50, 60 yards when he catches the football. He has that great breakaway speed like Odell Beckham had, in his prime with the New York Giants. I used to always say, Odell, he has that great breakaway speed. Antonio Brown has it as well. Ja'Marr Chase has some great breakaway speed. And he's playing some great football right now, leading the Cincinnati Bengals. And then you saw yesterday, you even saw T. Higgins. He got into the mix. 7 receptions, 62 receiving yards. CJ Uzama, he's been playing some great football. 3 receptions, 91 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals right now, they got weapons all over on the offensive side of the ball. All over. And in the Ravens secondary, nobody could guard Ja'Marr Chase. I mean, Marlon Humphreys, who got paid in the offseason, who's actually a good covering corner, he covers pretty good. He got lit up by Ja'Marr Chase yesterday afternoon in Baltimore. He got completely lit up. So the Bengals offense, they are playing at a very, very high level. The only thing I would say the Bengals have to do a better job of, they have to get Joe Mixon involved in the offense and have the running game effective. That way you can play complementary football, and the Bengals would be virtually unstoppable. It would be unstoppable. Yesterday, Joe Mixon only had 12 carries, 59 rushing yards. Then, you had Sajay Perrin. He had 11 carries, 52 rushing yards. I want to see Joe Mixon get more involved in the offense. Because if they can get Joe Mixon going, it's over. It's over if they can get Joe Mixon going. Because everywhere else, this offense is flying high on all cylinders. They're playing well on all cylinders right now. But I want to show some love to the Bengals defense. Their defense was very impressive yesterday. Lamar Jackson didn't even have 100 yards rushing yesterday. He only had 88 rushing yards on the afternoon. And as electrifying as Lamar Jackson is as a quarterback, holding him to under 100 yards rushing is very impressive for defensive coordinator Lou Admiral and his group. They were very, very impressive. And so far this season, this is through 7 games. The Bengals, they have a top 10 defense. They only given up 94 yards a game rushing. So teams aren't even averaging 100 yards per game on the Bengals defense. And then they're only giving up 18 points per game. The offense is scoring 28 points per game. So you know they're going to score points. But defensively, they're only giving up 18 points per game. That is very impressive. And that's why I want to show some love to the Bengals defense tonight. Because we all know about how high-powered the offense is. With Ja'Marr Chase, one of the best young receivers in the NFL. Joe Burrow, one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. We know how elite their offense is. But let's talk about how great their defense played yesterday afternoon against Lamar. They sacked Lamar 5 times, which is tied for the most in his career. So they got to Lamar Jackson 5 times. Sam Hubbard, he had 2.5 sacks. Ojobi, he had 1.5 sack. And Trey Hendrickson, who they signed in free agency, he had a sack as well. They've been very impressive. And then you remember in the week 5 the week 5 loss against the Packers, in the red zone, I saw the Packers get down there 4 times and had to settle for field goals 4 times. And you remember, in that game, the Bengals overcame deficits of 16-7 and 22-14 in a game where I thought the Packers had an opportunity to take control of the football game, but it did not happen. This is a different Bengals team. And again, they are playing complementary football offensively and defensively right now. And defensively, again, over the last 2 years in free agency, they've spent over $200 million. They brought in DJ Reader. They brought in Von Bell as well. They drafted Logan Wilson 2 years ago. So they got a lot of players right now who are contributing to their team defensively. And I love Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates, he will lay the wood on you across the middle of the football field. He can really, really hit hard. And, he's one of the most hardest hitting safeties in the NFL. He's underrated, but Bates, he can hit you hard coming across that middle. So, like I said, they spent some money in free agency defensively. And right now, they playing some great football. They really, really are. But when you look at their schedule over the next, 5 weeks, okay? Look at their schedule. At Jets, that's a win for the Bengals. Let's go ahead and pencil that as a win. The Bengals will dominate the New York Jets. They home against the Browns November 7th. That could be a loss. But it's a toss-up game because the Bengals could beat the Browns at Power Brown Stadium, Battle of Ohio, Baker Mayfield versus Joe Burrow. It'll be an exciting matchup, although Joe Burrow is better than Baker Mayfield. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield is better than Joe Burrow, ladies and gentlemen, okay? He's not. But it'll be a nice matchup. Then they got to bye. When you look in their schedule, they got to bye week 10. Week 10, they got to bye. Then they're at Raiders, week 11. And then they're home against the Steelers, week 12. Raiders could be a loss. So that'll be a toss-up game as well. I've already said I don't believe in the Steelers. I don't. So I think they'll beat the Steelers. So over the next 5 weeks, it'll be probably about week 13. We'll say it'll be week 13. I think over the next 5 weeks, the Bengals could easily go, we'll say 2-2, maybe even 3-1. If they can steal a game against the Browns or the Raiders, you go 3-1 over the next, 5 weeks with a bye in there as well. So they go 3-1 over the next 5 weeks. They'll be sitting at 8-3. Woo, impressive. I know Cincinnati Bengals fans will be going crazy, as we head into week 13 and the Bengals are 8-3 with an opportunity to have the road to the Super Bowl come through Cincinnati. Oh, man. Woo. That'd be crazy. That would be crazy. Now, one more thing I want to talk about, and I want to talk about Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson. So yesterday, again, because the Bengals haven't had a team that's been a legit contender in the AFC in about 4 or 5 years, we got Bengal fans going crazy. Crazy to the point where there are Bengal fans that are trying to say that Joe Burrow is better than Lamar Jackson. And that is crazy. That is crazy. And can we please stop pretending like Joe Burrow is all of a sudden better than Lamar Jackson? Is there a possibility that Joe Burrow could have a better career than Lamar Jackson? Yes. Joe Burrow is a better pure pocket passer than Lamar Jackson is. Although Lamar Jackson has gotten better at throwing the ball from the pocket. He really, really has. And, so far in his career, Lamar Jackson, 78 touchdowns, 23 interceptions. He's completed 64% of his passes. And you remember in 2019, he won NFL MVP, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The man had over 3,100 passing yards. He broke the rushing yards record that was previously held by Michael Vick. So Lamar Jackson is big time. But let's stop trying to act like Joe Burrow is currently better than Lamar Jackson, because he is not. Let's pump the brakes. Please pump the brakes. I know Lamar Jackson only has one win in the postseason so far in his career. He's played in 4 postseason games. He's 1-3 in the postseason, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, completed 56% of his passes. Not very impressive, but Lamar Jackson, he has an NFL MVP on his resume. Lamar Jackson has broken the rushing yards record previously held by Michael Vick. He made it to a Pro Bowl in 2019. He was the NFL passing yards leader the year when he won the MVP. And y'all remember, he was a great college player for Louisville. Lamar Jackson currently is better than Joe Burrow. That isn't to say that this could not change as time goes along. But Lamar Jackson is still currently better than Joe Burrow. So these are some records that Lamar Jackson has broken. Most single season rushing yards by a quarterback, like I just mentioned earlier, 1,206 rushing yards. Most single season rushing attempts by a quarterback, 176 rushing attempts. Most 1,000-yard rushing seasons by a quarterback. He had 2 1,000 yards rushing seasons, 2019 and last year. Okay. And he has the most games with the passer rating in the same season, tied with Ben Roethlisberger with 2. Most games with the perfect passer rating. That's Lamar Jackson. I'm not ready to say Joe Burrow is better than Lamar Jackson just yet. Please pump the brakes. But Joe Burrow, he definitely is big time. So let's transition and let's talk about the Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs. Yesterday in Tennessee, it was a beatdown that took place. The Tennessee Titans, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs 27-3. Patrick Mahomes, he did not have a good game. 20 of 35, 206 passing yards, 1 interception, 2 fumbles. One of those fumbles he lost. This is his 6th straight game with the interception. For the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill, he went 21 of 27, 270 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. A.J. Brown, 8 receptions, 133 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. So, when it comes to this game and the Kansas City Chiefs, I want to say, I'll get to Patrick Mahomes here shortly. But first, I want to talk about the Chiefs' defense. The Chiefs' defense is garbage. Their defense is one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And when you watched what took place yesterday in Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill, he's not elite. He's not Aaron Rodgers. Okay? He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Justin Herbert. Ryan Tannehill, he completed his first 11 passes against this Chiefs defense. 9 of the Titans' first 17 plays were for first downs. 9 of their first 17 plays were for first downs. And so far this season, these are the Chiefs' defensive ranks in the NFL. Points per game, they're tied for 27th in the NFL. Yards per game, they're ranked 28th in the NFL. They are ranked 26th in the NFL and passing yards per game giving up. They're ranked 27th in the NFL and rushing yards per game given up. They've given up 29, 36, 30 points twice, 38. Gave up 13 against the Washington football team. They're not very good. And 27 yesterday against the Tennessee Titans. They are terrible. They are terrible. And the Titans got whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted to get it. And the Chiefs secondary, they had no answers for A.J. Brown yesterday. 8 receptions, 133 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, in this game, the Titans completely dominated the Kansas City Chiefs. And defensively, for some reason, defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, he still's playing man coverage. Spagnuolo, your defense is atrocious. Why are you trying to play man coverage against Julio Jones and A.J. Brown? Are you kidding me? They are awful defensively. You don't have the personnel to play man coverage. You need to be playing a zone defense. And it's so crazy because yesterday when you watched the game, Derrick Henry only had 29 carries for 86 rushing yards, and the Titans still were able to dominate the game. If you would have told me before the game that the Chiefs would have held Derrick Henry to under 100 yards rushing in this game, I would have said, oh, the Chiefs have an opportunity to win that game. They got a chance to beat the Titans if they can hold Derrick Henry to under 100 yards rushing. But they had no answers for Ryan Tannehill. They made Ryan Tannehill look like he is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL yesterday. 21 of 27, 270 passing yards. I mean, he was absolutely dominant in this game, completing 77% of his passes. That was Ryan Tannehill yesterday. So the issue with the Kansas City Chiefs overall, they're turning the ball over offensively. And when you have a bad defense that can't stop the run, that can't stop the pass, and they give up touchdowns instead of field goals when teams get in the red zone, that is why you have the Kansas City Chiefs right now last in the AFC West, sitting at 3-4 on the season. Offensively, they're turning the ball over at a very, very high rate right now, and they're putting their defense back on the field, and their defense isn't very good to begin with. They aren't very good to begin with. So when opposing teams bring their offense back to the field, going up against this garbage defense in the Kansas City Chiefs, that's why you see the Chiefs struggling the way that they are right now. And defensively, they have no talent. I mean, besides Chris Jones and Honey Badger, who on this defense can make plays? They moved Chris Jones, to defensive end. Although he didn't play in the matchup yesterday against the Titans, but they moved him to defensive end to start the season. And he hasn't been very effective. He was much better at defensive tackle than he has been at defensive end. But no one is making plays right now for this Chiefs defense. Frank Clark, y'all remember him? He, at one point in his career, played with the Seattle Seahawks and was a pretty good pass rusher. Since he's been with the Kansas City Chiefs, he hasn't been very good. And he's not making plays for this Chiefs defense. Yesterday, Clark, he had 2 tackles for the afternoon, not very good. So besides Honey Badger and Chris Jones, the Chiefs defense, they're not very good in the talent department. They just not. Now, let me get to Patrick Mahomes. And I want to be very clear about this. This is personal for me. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, I am old enough to remember a time where people actually tried to say that Patrick Mahomes is better than Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. This was fresh off a season where Aaron Rodgers had 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, completing 71% of his passes. He won NFL MVP last year. And there were still people that said Patrick Mahomes was better currently than Aaron Rodgers. And I laughed. I laughed at it then, and I'm laughing at it now. All of you Patrick Mahomes supporters, are you ready to admit that you were wrong about Patrick Mahomes being better than Aaron Rodgers? Because there's been a ton of evidence that supports my argument as to why Aaron Rodgers is still currently better than Patrick Mahomes and arguably the best quarterback in the NFL, although Tom Brady's having a tremendous season right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Lamar Jackson was playing pretty well before yesterday. But we have a ton of evidence on why Aaron Rodgers is currently still better than Patrick Mahomes. And oh, by the way, although it was in a losing effort, Aaron Rodgers played better against the Bucs defense in the NFC Championship game than Patrick Mahomes did in the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers put up 26 points on that elite Bucs defense in the NFC Championship. Patrick Mahomes didn't even score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Didn't even score a touchdown. Not to mention, Patrick Mahomes, he has a top 5 receiver in Tyreek Hill. He has arguably the best tight end in the NFL in Travis Kelce. He also has one of the greatest coaches in NFL history in Andy Reid. And Aaron Rodgers has Devontae Adams, who is the best receiver in the NFL. But Patrick Mahomes has a ton of weapons to throw the ball to. He has a tremendous supporting cast to throw the ball to, more so than even Aaron Rodgers. He has so many weapons. It's like Aaron Rodgers has Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is a Rolls Royce, okay? Patrick Mahomes, he got multiple great cars. He got 2 Honda Accords. He got 3 Nissan Altimas. All of these are 2021 cars, by the way. 2021 cars. He has a ton of weapons to distribute the football to, and Aaron Rodgers only has an elite weapon in Devontae Adams. Now, let's get to this season. Patrick Mahomes, 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, over 2,000 passing yards on the season. He's completing 68% of his passes. Aaron Rodgers, 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1,710 passing yards, completing 68% of his passes. He has less interceptions than Patrick Mahomes. And he, again, has less weapons to distribute the football to than Patrick Mahomes. And then, another thing, I forgot to mention this. Aaron Rodgers was under more duress in the NFC Championship game than Patrick Mahomes was in the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers got sacked 5 times in the NFC Championship game. Patrick Mahomes got sacked 3 times. So, again, when you compare Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, it's not even an argument anymore. Aaron Rodgers is still better than Patrick Mahomes. And in my opinion, he's the undisputed best quarterback in the NFL. Still, week 8 of the 2021 season. Now, I want to talk about Patrick Mahomes individually. And right now, he's not playing very good football. Like 11 turnovers this season, 9 interceptions, 2 fumbles lost. Okay, he had 15 turnovers total the last 2 seasons. He has 11 so far this season. He has 8 interceptions the last 5 games. And Mahomes, he has more interceptions than touchdowns the last 3 games. The man has 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions the last 3 games. He's not very good right now. He has a passer rating of 75, completing 62% of his passes the last 3 games. And right now, he has 9 interceptions. That is tied right now with Zach Wilson, rookie quarterback for the New York Jets. They both got 9 interceptions, which leads the NFL. And Mahomes has 17 total turnovers in 7 games. 7 games, the man got 17 total turnovers. Right now, Derek Carr, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they all are currently playing better than the supposed best quarterback in the NFL. Will Patrick Mahomes bounce back? Absolutely. I have never denied Patrick Mahomes being one of the greatest talents at the quarterback position we've ever witnessed. But after going to 3 consecutive AFC Championship games, after winning an NFL MVP with 50 touchdowns in that season, and after going to the Super Bowl the past 2 years, Patrick Mahomes has been crowned as the best quarterback in the NFL. And I've said, hey, let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes. And also think about the context and what he's working with. He has one of the greatest coaches in NFL history in Andy Reid. He has a tremendous support system and great weapons to distribute the football to. So, again, the best quarterback in the NFL, supposedly by most people, is not playing very good football right now. Now, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and their next 5 games. And honestly, right now, they're 3-4. People are asking the question, are they a playoff team in the AFC? Next 5 games. Let's go down the list. They're home against the Giants. That's a win. Home against the Packers. That's a toss-up. They could lose that game to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. At Raiders, that's a toss-up. They could lose to the Raiders. You remember last year, the Raiders beat the Kansas City Chiefs in, one of the 2 matchups they played against each other in the AFC West division. You are home against the Cowboys week 11. That could be a loss. And then they're home against the Broncos. They'll beat the Broncos. But the Packers, Raiders, and Cowboys easily could all beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's just say they lose to the Packers, Raiders, and Cowboys, and they beat the Broncos and Giants. So that means over the next 5 games, they'll go 2-3. So that means they'll be 5-7. 5-7 heading into week 14 because they got to bye week 12. 5-7. Whew. Man, that's not very good. And that's not a team that would be contending for a playoff spot in the AFC. So these next 5 games are crucial for the Chiefs and their chances at being able to make the playoffs. If they go 2-3 and they're 5-7, heading into week 14, they might miss the playoffs. They might miss the playoffs. And then, if they go 3-2, they have a shot. Go 3-2, but if they go 3-2, they'll be 5-6? No, they'll be 6-6 instead of 5-7, heading into week 14. So that gives you a better opportunity to make the postseason. Gives you a better opportunity. Now, before I transition to my next topic, I do want to talk about the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, they've impressed me the last 2 weeks. They won Monday night last week against the Buffalo Bills in a matchup against Josh Allen, in a game where, they needed to win that game. And the last few weeks, the Colts quietly have been playing much improved football. They're playing some much improved football over the last few weeks. They got a big-time win last night over the Niners on Sunday Night Football. So the Colts, slowly but surely, are coming along. And the Tennessee Titans, they've won 2 straight games over 2 quality opponents in the AFC, in the Bills and the Chiefs, both teams who were in the AFC Championship game last year. And so the way the Titans play, they physically impose their will on teams. And when you play the Tennessee Titans, you have to strap up and make sure your chin strap is buttoned up tight, because they are going to play smash mouth football with Derrick Henry. Right now, they have the number 3 rushing attack in the NFL. They're going to play smash mouth football with Derrick Henry, and they're going to try to get the ball to their weapons in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones on the perimeter. Julio Jones, he's 6'3". A.J. Brown is 6 feet. So a lot of times they have the advantage when it comes to size over opposing teams' cornerbacks. That's what A.J. Brown and Julio Jones bring to the table. They have a huge height advantage over a lot of teams when it comes to their receivers. So, again, we're going to see, how the Titans play as we go down the stretch of this season, in the second half of the season. Over the next few weeks, Titans, look at their schedule. They are at Indianapolis. That's a big-time matchup in the AFC South. Then they're at the LA Rams. That could be a loss for the Titans. But then they're home against the Saints, home against the Texans, and then at New England. So, they could win those 3 games easily. Home against the Saints, home against the Texans, that's a for sure win, and at New England. Those could be 3 wins for the Tennessee Titans. But they are legit contenders in the AFC. And when you talk about, all these teams in the AFC, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Las Vegas, LA Chargers, let's throw Tennessee Titans in there. Let's throw them in there. They are a team that could compete and possibly win the AFC and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. It's possible. It really, really is. I have my questions about Ryan Tannehill because we know he's not an elite quarterback, but he got so many weapons offensively he can throw the ball to that the Titans, I can see them playing late in the season in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens. Now, a couple of things I want to get to, some quick hitters. Let's talk about the New England Patriots, as the New England Patriots beat the New York Jets 54-13. They improved to 3-4 in the season. Zach Wilson, he had to leave the game early with an injury. He went 6 of 10, 51 passing yards. And then White, the quarterback for the Jets, the backup quarterback, he went 20 of 32. He threw for 202 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. for the Patriots. Mac Jones, 24 of 36, 307 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. So the question here is, can the New England Patriots make the playoffs in the AFC? I don't believe the Patriots will make the playoffs this season. Now, I like the development of Mac Jones. I like how Bill Belichick has utilized Mac Jones in this Patriots offense. So far in the season, Mac Jones got 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, over 1,700 passing yards, completing 70% of his passes. That's very impressive for Mac Jones. And y'all remember earlier in the season, Mac Jones going up against Tom Brady in that elite Bucs offense. Mac Jones had 19 straight completions at one point in that game. And then in week 6, going up against Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, Mac Jones played pretty well. 15 of 21, 229 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 bad interception that he threw to Trayvon Diggs, but he played pretty well. I like Mac Jones and how Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels is using him in this Patriots offense. But do I believe the Patriots are a playoff team in the AFC? No, for 2 reasons. One, they're 3-4 in the season. So, they lost 2 games earlier in the season that were winnable games against the Bucs and against the Cowboys. 3-4 right now. Take off 2 losses, and they could be 5-2, maybe, instead of 3-4. Then maybe they'll have an opportunity to make the playoffs, but I just don't see it happening because of their record at 3-4. And then when you look at their schedule, the next 5 games, they're at the Chargers this week. That's a loss. Then they have to go to Carolina. That's a toss-up game. The Patriots could beat the Panthers. Then they're home against the Browns. I think that's a toss-up, but I probably would favor the Browns depending on if the Browns have a lot of their key players back from injuries. If they do, I think the Patriots will lose that game. Then they're at Atlanta. I think that's a win for the Patriots. And then they're home against the Titans. That's a loss. So over the next 5 weeks, they could possibly go 2-3. They could possibly go 2-3 over the next 5 weeks, which would mean they would be 5-8. 5-8. After 13 games in the season, I just don't see them making the playoffs. I really, really don't. And then you look at the other teams in the AFC. The Patriots. Are they better than the Bengals? No. Are they better than the Ravens? No. Are they better than the Steelers? Maybe. Are they better than the Browns? A healthy Browns team? No. Let's talk about the AFC West. Comparing the Patriots. Are they better than the Raiders? No. Are they better than the Chargers? No. Are they better than the Chiefs? As bad as the Chiefs are playing, I say no. So they're not better than any of those teams in the AFC West. Maybe the Denver Broncos. They got the same record at 3-4. AFC South. Are they better than the Titans? No. Are they better than the Colts? Maybe, but the Colts are coming along. They're coming along. And we know they're not better than the Buffalo Bills. They still got to play the Buffalo Bills in week 13 and week 16. Both of those games are losses. I see the Patriots finishing probably 8-9 on the season at best. At best, they'll finish 8-9, and 8-9 is not going to be good enough to get you into the playoffs. It's not. It's not. Not when you got all these other teams in the AFC who's competing for wild card spots. And so, like I said, the next 5 games it's gonna be tough. It's gonna definitely be tough. Let's talk about the Packers. As y'all know, yesterday the Green Bay Packers, they beat the Washington football team 24-10, improved to 6-1 on the season for the Washington football team. Tyler Heineke, he went 25 of 37, threw for 268 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Aaron Rodgers, He went 27 of 35, 274 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. So everyone's talking about, are the Packers legit threats in the NFC? Absolutely, the Packers are legitimate threats in the NFC. And I'm going to be honest, I was excited about this upcoming matchup in Week 8, going out to Arizona to take on the 7-0 Arizona Cardinals. I was excited about it because I felt like even if the Packers lost, even if they lost and failed to 6-2 on the season, if they played well in that game, I would feel good about the Packers and their chances come playoff time to be able to beat elite teams in the NFC, like the Arizona Cardinals, like the LA Rams, or like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These are one of the best teams in the NFC. I remember a couple weeks ago, I did my top 5 NFL teams currently in the NFC. I had the Cardinals at 1. I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 2. I had the Packers at 3. I had the LA Rams at 4, and I had the Dallas Cowboys at 5. So the Packers going up against an NFC contender in the Arizona Cardinals, 7-0 on the season, a legitimate NFL MVP candidate like Kyler Murray. It was going to be a measuring stick for how I believe the Packers are as a football team after 8 weeks into the season. And then I got the news earlier about Davante Adams. So now, heading into this matchup Thursday night against the Arizona Cardinals, Packers playing with house money. And not to mention, they're dealing with a ton of injuries. And normally I don't make excuses for teams that are dealing with injuries. That's the NFL. But the Packers have 8 players who they could be without in this Thursday night game against the Arizona Cardinals. All-pro receiver, Davante Adams. All-pro left tackle, David Bakhtiari. All-pro cornerback, Jair Alexander. All-pro outside linebackers, Zadarius Smith. Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Preston Smith. Josh Myers. Kevin King. And defensive coordinator Joe Barry. He also tested positive for COVID as well. So, now Packers playing with house money. They're playing with house money. Now, we got to rely on receivers like Randall Cobb, who's a proven veteran who Aaron Rodgers trusts. We got to rely on Amari Rodgers, the rookie receiver out of Clemson. Also, Alan Lazard, who I was impressed with, by the way, in the Week 7 game against Washington yesterday. Alan Lazard, 5 receptions, 60 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Everyone has been talking about who's going to be that second reliable receiver for Aaron Rodgers in the Packers offense. Alan Lazard stepped up yesterday. 5 receptions, 60 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Not great, but we don't need Alan Lazard to be great. We got Davante Adams for that. We just need Alan Lazard, MVS, and Randall Cobb by committee to all be reliable, when Davante Adams is not targeted. We need all those receivers, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling to all be reliable and by committee be that consistent option for Aaron Rodgers to rely on in the Packers offense other than Davante Adams. But, in this game against the Washington football team, I want to give the defense a lot of credit for the win because coming into the game, there were statistics out about how the Packers defense, they've given up a touchdown every time a team has reached the red zone. Every time a team has reached the red zone, the Packers defense had given up a touchdown. That didn't happen yesterday against the Washington football team. Washington got to the red zone 4 times, only scored 10 points. So I was very impressive with Joe Barry and the defense yesterday in the game against the Washington football team. But it was against Washington. I'm not going to get into an uproar about the Packers defense against Washington. They're not very good. They're 2-5 on the season. They are one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL, if you ask me, because coming into the season, most people picked the Washington football team to be contenders in the NFC East. And it's been all Dallas. But again, We got a lot of pieces missing defensively right now. And I just hope that the Packers can get healthy at the right time as we get into December and January. I hope Jair Alexander can return back to the lineup. I hope at some point this season we'll get back Zadarius Smith, an all-pro outside linebacker who's a great pass rusher. I hope at some point we'll get back Preston Smith as well. David Bakhtiari, he's already back at practice for the Packers. So he is the best tackle in the NFL. And so Aaron Rodgers needs David Bakhtiari in the playoffs to protect him when the Packers, pass the football. So we got a lot of injuries we're dealing with right now. Like Josh Myers, a center, I like him. I like him a lot. And he's injured. So if we can get some of these players back at the right time in December, I'm excited for my Packers' chances in the NFC. Right now in the NFC, all I'm hearing is Arizona, Tampa Bay, Dallas, and the Rams. And then everyone's talking about the Packers. Everyone has forgotten about the team who's been to back-to-back NFC championship games. And over the last 3 years, I would say the Green Bay Packers have been the best team in the NFC. Been to back-to-back NFC championship games. That's nothing to laugh at. That's nothing to sleep on. And don't forget, in the Matt LaFleur era, the Packers, they are 17-2 under Matt LaFleur. 17-2. So this game against the Arizona Cardinals will improve our chances at having the road to the Super Bowl had to come through Lambeau Field. Get the win, you improve to 7-1 on the season, then you'll own the tiebreaker over the Arizona Cardinals. But without Devontae Adams, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But again, they're playing with house money now. Playing with house money. And I just want to see a competitive game come Thursday night. I'll come on probably Thursday morning and talk more about the Packers-Cardinals matchup Thursday night on Fox, 8:15 p.m. Packers, Cardinals in the desert. I'm excited for it. But, Aaron Rodgers in this game against the Washington football team, just another great day at the office for Aaron Rodgers. 27 of 35, 274 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, Aaron Rodgers is, I believe, at some point is going to, start creeping his way into the NFL MVP conversation. So far, it's been all about Lamar. It's been all about Kyler Murray and Tom Brady. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to creep his way into that NFL MVP conversation as well, for sure. Let's transition to some NBA. And I want to talk about that Melo fella out there in LA for the Los Angeles Lakers. Y'all know last night, the LA Lakers, they beat the Memphis Grizzlies 121-118. Melo scored a team high 28 points, moving into 9th place on the NBA career scoring list. He had, 6 of 8 from 3-point range. Melo went 10 of 15 shooting overall. He was absolutely sensational. Melo, 28 points in 27 minutes. And he showed why he deserves to be a member of the 75th anniversary team. I heard a lot of rumblings last week after the 75 greatest players were announced. Some people wanted to question whether or not Carmelo Anthony deserved to be on the 75 greatest players list. And Melo just showed you why last night, why he is one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. 28 points in 27 minutes, 10 of 15 shooting from the floor, 6 of 8 from 3-point range. And he had 12 points in the fourth quarter. And the Lakers needed all of his points. They needed all of his points because this was a game where Ja Morant was dominating the Lakers. He had 40 points, 10 assists. He shot 13 of 21 from the floor, 5 of 7 from 3-point range. He played great. And if it wasn't for his missed free throw at the end of the game, this game would have went into overtime, and ain't no telling what would have happened. And it's a possibility the Lakers could have fallen to 0-3 on the season. But Melo, man, was he big time last night. He was big time. And Carmelo Anthony has always been an elite scorer. And he showed also why he has a legit chance to win the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award. He got a shot. He really, really do. For his career, the man is averaged 23 points per game on 45% shooting from the floor. You remember in his days when he was playing with the Denver Nuggets, Melo was a bona fide superstar. Now, he didn't have the playoff success that we all wanted him to have. He came up short in the postseason multiple years. But I also believe Carmelo never had the supporting cast like a LeBron James has had, like a Dwayne Wade has had in his career. He hasn't. And you remember in Denver, Melo didn't have another superstar player to play alongside him. I mean, that one year they got to the Western Conference Finals. They ran into Kobe Bryant, RIP to the Black Mamba, and they lost in 6 games. I believe it was the 2009 Western Conference Finals. But Melo was a problem. And when Kobe talked about the hardest players to guard in the NBA, Melo was at the top of his list. He talked about how great Melo was because Melo is so strong. And you saw, and you remember, in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers in 2009, Melo, he took on that challenge of guarding Kobe. Like, he actually played some defense in that matchup in the Western Conference Finals between the Nuggets and the Lakers. He's been, criticized because he doesn't play defense. Melo plays defense when he wants to. And that's been a lot of people's issue with Melo throughout the course of his career. But he showed in the Western Conference Finals in 2009 that when the moment presents itself, Melo can play some nice defense. He's not a great lockdown defender like Michael Jordan, like Kawhi Leonard, like Kobe Bryant, like, LeBron James. He's not a great lockdown defender. He never has been. But can he play great team defense? Absolutely. And that's what you saw Kobe Bryant talk about in his interviews when he discussed Carmelo Anthony. And I got a question for everyone out there. Have we ever seen a better all-around scorer from the perimeter? Besides Carmelo Anthony? Like, besides Michael Jordan, besides Kobe Bryant, besides Kevin Durant, have we ever seen a great perimeter scorer like Melo? Now, I know everyone's going to say, oh my God, LeBron James, he is on the top 5 scoring list for the most points in NBA history. LeBron James is not the all-around scorer that Carmelo Anthony is. Melo is a better perimeter shooter than LeBron is. Melo is a better free throw shooter than LeBron is. And Melo is a better mid-range shooter than LeBron James is. Now, LeBron James is better than Melo as far as attacking the rim. And even in Melo's prime, he was pretty good at attacking the rim as well, but not as great as LeBron. But LeBron is not a better all-around scorer than Carmelo Anthony. Dwayne Wade, he's the 3rd greatest shooting guard in NBA history behind Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. But Dwayne Wade, he wasn't as gifted as a scorer as Carmelo Anthony is. He's a great scorer, but Dwayne Wade never had the range that Carmelo had. Dwayne Wade never, created mismatches like Carmelo did on the low block. I mean, he's 6'8", and if you put a slow big man on him, he can blow right past him and get to the rim. If you put a defender on him who's 6'3", 6'4", Melo can rise right over them and shoot the mid-range jump shot on the low block. So Melo has always been an elite scorer. He has been a problem since he's been in the NBA in his 19 seasons. I wish people would stop disrespecting this man. I'm a Melo fan, but I believe Melo is big time. You remember 2 years ago, teams didn't even want to sign Melo. Are you serious? One of the greatest scorers in NBA history? You're telling me that Carmelo Anthony didn't deserve to be on an NBA roster? I told people they were crazy then, and I'll say it today. You are out of your mind if you believe Carmelo Anthony does not deserve to be on an NBA roster. It's laughable. There are not over 400 NBA players that are better than Carmelo Anthony. Never was and never has been. So he had a great game last night. And he honestly was the reason why the Lakers were able to win this game. Now, one of my other big takeaways watching the Lakers and the Grizzlies last night, in 37 minutes, Russell Westbrook, he had a higher usage rate than Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And in those 37 minutes, this is Westbrook. 13 points, 7 rebounds, 13 assists, 9 turnovers. He shot 5 of 15 from the floor, 1 of 4 from three-point range. He's one of the worst superstars that shoots the three ball. One of the worst. I mean, he's one of the worst in NBA history. Like 1 of 4 from three-point range. Russ, please stop shooting perimeter shots. You're not Steph Curry. You're not Klay Thompson. You're not Kyrie Irving. You're not Damian Lillard. Russ, stop shooting so many damn three-point shots. Like 4 3-point field goal attempts. I want Russ to maybe shoot like 1 a game, if that. Give him 1 just because he's playing a great game. If he's playing an outstanding game and he's distributing the basketball the way a point guard is supposed to, hell, let him shoot 1 3-point shot if the Lakers are winning. They winning, let Russ shoot 1 3-point shot. But him shooting 4, 6, 7 perimeter shots is not good for the Lakers. It's not good. And yesterday, he was very inefficient. Russ, he had more turnovers with 9 than made field goal attempts with 5 yesterday. And then in the final 8 minutes and 8 seconds, this is when Westbrook re-entered the game. In the fourth quarter, he went 0 of 2 from the field. 0 points, 3 turnovers, 1 assist, 1 rebound in the fourth quarter. That is not going to get it done from your star point guard. I love Russell Westbrook, but I mentioned on the show last week that Russ may have to come off the bench in order for this Lakers team to be successful. I don't really see Russell fitting in with LeBron James, who also is a ball-dominant player. And last night, in usage rate, it went Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Anthony Davis, and LeBron. He finished 4th in total usage rate. No. For the Lakers to be successful, that's not good. That cannot happen. Like, you need LeBron James to lead this team in usage rate. He is the playmaker, and he's, alongside Rondo, the best passer on this Lakers team. Rajon Rondo is a tremendous passer as well. I don't know who's better at passing the ball between LeBron and Rondo. They about even to me, honestly. They both are tremendous passers. But Westbrook cannot lead your team in usage rate. It's a recipe for disaster for the Lakers. 9 turnovers is too much. It's too much. And it's going to cost the Lakers games as the season goes along. That's why I think Russ has a better opportunity to play with the second unit to be successful. Put Russ in with Melo and Malik Monk and, Dwight Howard and, even Austin Reeves, who actually played well, by the way, last night. Austin Reeves in 17 minutes of action, He only had 4 points, but he had 3 great assists. 3 great assists and made some big time plays for the Lakers in the fourth quarter. And there was another key stat that was very, ironic. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Every Lakers starter in the plus minus department was minus last night. Every Lakers starter was minus. Every Grizzlies starter was a plus in the plus minus department. Every Lakers bench player was a plus in the plus minus department. And every Grizzlies bench player was a minus in the plus minus department. That is something that's very unusual. I've never seen that before, ever. Like where one team has all of its starters all minus, one team has all of its starters plus, one team has all of its bench players plus, and one team has all of its bench players a minus. I've never seen that before. Very, very unusual. And those are my takeaways from the game. Russell Westbrook's turnovers were a problem for the Lakers, and if he doesn't clean this up, it's going to be a problem for the Lakers as the season goes along. And again, in the fourth quarter, Russ was awful. He was awful. And then that plus minus statistic I just talked about. And again, Ja Morant, he was great. He was great. And all of those people that said that Ja Morant is going to have a better career than Zion, they're looking real good right now. I know we got a long way to go. We got a lot of basketball to be played throughout the course of their 2 careers. Because I want Zion healthy. I know he came into camp overweight with the Pelicans, but I want Zion playing basketball at a high level, just like Ja Morant is playing basketball at a high level for the Grizzlies. But so far, Ja Morant, he has outperformed Zion Williamson and has led his team to the postseason, something Zion has not done. Now, Zion is playing in New Orleans, and their organization is not very good. They're not very good. They got David Griffin as general manager, and I've had my questions about David Griffin and if he can, lead a team as a general manager and put the right pieces in place around Zion. But Ja Morant has led his team to the postseason. Zion has not. Ja Morant is more durable than Zion. So, coming into that draft, I said maybe the Pelicans should consider drafting Ja Morant. But they had Lonzo Ball, at the time, so they didn't need Ja Morant. But Ja Morant's better than Lonzo Ball. That's not even a question. He's significantly better than Lonzo. But Ja Morant's big time. He's big time, man. And besides that missed free throw that would have tied the game up and sent the game to overtime, he played great last night. He played great. Another thing for the Lakers, their first 15 games are at Staples. And so let me read their next 10 games. At Spurs, at OKC, home against the Cavaliers, home against the Rockets, home against the Rockets again, home against the Thunder, at Blazers, home against the Hornets, home against the Heat, and home against the Timberwolves. So honestly, as a Laker fan, for one season, I'm happy that the first 15 games of the season, 12 of those games will be played at Staples because it gives the Lakers an opportunity to basically develop some chemistry, and everyone on the team can know their roles as we get later into the season and get closer to the All-Star break. By the All-Star break, I want everyone to know their roles, and I want the chemistry to be developed for this Lakers team. We got a lot of big-time names on this team, a lot of big-time names. You got Carmelo Anthony. You got LeBron James. You got Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, Russell Westbrook, Rajon Rondo. I mean, the list goes on and on. All of these players are proven veterans in the NBA and have major accomplishments. So I would like for the Lakers to develop some chemistry in these first 15 games of the season. That way, when we get close to Christmas and the All-Star break, the Lakers can hit their stride and be one of the best teams in the Western Conference and possibly compete for a number one overall seed in the West and have, home court advantage in the playoffs. That's what I'm looking forward to for the Lakers, in these first 15 games, and 12 of those games being played at Staples. Everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. I'm Trey Larkins live on the Worldwide Sports Network. We'll give you a live score update right now. We got the Seattle Seahawks leading the New Orleans Saints 7-0 in that game so far. Geno Smith, he's 4 of 7 passing, 90 passing yards, 1 touchdown. And Jameis Winston for the Saints, 4 of 9, 50 passing yards so far in that game. Big time matchup between two teams that's trying to compete for playoff spots, in the NFC. Two good head coaches, and Pete Carroll and Sean Payton facing off against one another on Monday Night Football on ESPN. Seahawks off to an early lead, 7-0 in that one. Everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. I'll be back on probably Thursday talking about the Thursday night matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Arizona Cardinals and giving y'all my Week 8 Wise picks on the Wise Guys Sports Show. Enjoy your night. Have a good one.